Hi, this is a follow-up video from the one I did last year on the first lesson you need to teach your child at home concerning money, and that was basically savings. And we saw how the behaviors you ought to instill as a parent on how you can introduce the aspect of saving and living below your means. And the example I gave then was going to the market. If you have 1,000 shillings, we are looking at straight away putting 100 shillings away, taking it to any bank agent, and now living, you're now operating at 900. And today we're considering a child between the ages of 9 to about 13 years. That is an adolescent, so to speak. And what money lesson can you imbue your child in at this stage? Which money lesson do you need to introduce to this child at this level? Because remember, financial education, just like maths, keeps on building around each other. As we have seen in the case of the primary, secondary, and tertiary loops, everything is like a spiral. It's going round and round, building upon each other. So at this age, between the ages of 9 to about 13 years, the concept on finance you need to introduce to your child, or you need to introduce your child to, is the aspect of assets and liabilities. You need to bring to the awareness of your child what an asset is and what a liability is. Because remember, at this time, the view of the world as the child sees it has generally increased. We are seeing children at this level saying, oh, there are very different types of cars on the road. And even back at home when they're playing with their own toys, they have toy cars, for instance. There's so many, and they are so different, from the smallest one to the largest, to the heavy equipment. We're also seeing a child saying when they're traveling, they can see different buildings, they can see the land being put to use in different ways. And at this level, generally, a child can grasp the concept of an asset versus a liability. And remember, if I'm to take you back, during our time, the 844 back then, it was around class 6 where we were being introduced to business education studies. Yeah, so it's around this time that you can introduce this concept back at home. Now, what is an asset? To a child, basically, the very simplistic term, an asset is something that brings money to me. I have this something, I have spent capital on it, and in Kiswahili, I think it's called, is it mtaji? They actually learn it in Kiswahili. And I have spent capital on it, and it's now bringing in money continuously. And the goal is for this thing to repay itself. And a liability is something that I own, and I keep on spending money on it. So it keeps on taking money from my pocket. And then at this time, since we want the child to participate, you can ask the child to give an example of an asset versus a liability. And at this stage, if it's the first lesson, just let your child speak and just hear whether the child has grasped, and just keep on building on it and building on it and building on it. Remember, at this time also, most children at this time have some money. So we're looking at a child whose assets, money in the bank, for instance, as an asset, is higher than the liability. A child at this level is not indebted, and we want to show the child that actually you can live your life maintaining this equilibrium and not fall into this equilibrium. So it's at this time between 9 and 13 when you bring to the awareness of the child that if you have this, it will bring money in. If you have this, it will continuously take money out of your pocket. And it is important to bring to the awareness of the child also that there are some things that will take money out of your pocket, and they are not liabilities, as in the case of basic needs. If you look at transport, for instance, a luxurious or a tertiary need for transport could be owning a high-end car. There's nothing wrong with owning that car if you have enough assets to cater for it. And at this age, if a child has a remote car back at home, that is a very vicarious example you can use to bring to the awareness of the child, because at some point the child can see it's taking money from my pocket. I have to buy batteries for the remote, and I have to buy batteries for the car itself. So we are seeing this as the right time to introduce the concept of asset and liability. And also at this time, remember to bring to the awareness of your child that a skill I possess as a person, me, could be an asset, For instance, if I'm playing for my team, we saw in tertiary loops that children like playing in teams. And when one key team player is missing, the team feels low, the morale goes low. And you can bring the awareness of the child that that is a skill. That is an asset. That skill is an asset. And just as we saw in the tertiary loops, the way children between the ages of 6 and 9 show prowess in things they've mastered, you need to hone it, and you need now to bring to the awareness again of the child that this skill that you've honed, this skill that you've mastered could transcend into an asset. For instance, if a child is playing football, he can see footballers earning money through the football playing skill being an asset. So you want to bring this to the awareness of the child, so that you can encourage your child to continue honing in on his skills, and to, whenever he has money, he becomes judicious as to where he's going to allocate the money. For instance, if the child wants a phone, it's about time you bring the aspect of the phone being an asset or a liability. It could be an asset in that the child uses it to further his goal. With social media now, it's very, very easy. And a liability, as in the case where the child is using it and it's costing him money to constantly load airtime and to constantly load internet. So between the ages of 9 to 13, asset, liability. An asset brings in money, a liability costs me money, and it will plunge me into debtness. Let your child notice the assets out there. Let your child notice the liabilities out there, and also bring to the awareness of your child the hidden costs of an asset and the hidden costs of a liability. In the next video, we're going to consider a teenager, and at this age, you